Oh, one thing I could say about Martin as a person, he was the type of person that was for the underdog.
Everybody loved Martin Mingo, especially the kids. Like his mom, Martin was a special education teacher, helping children who had many needs.
I remember one day going to the classroom, they would run up to him and say, "Oh, Mr. Mingo," and they would give him hugs. And it's amazing, these little kids, they didn't come up, most of them didn't come up past his waist. But I mean, they love Mr. Mingo.
That's Martina Mingo, Martin's twin sister.
The funny thing about it, I look more like my older brother, and Martin looked more like his older sister, our older sister.
They were very different, but they grew up very close. Martina marveled at her brother's commitment to kids.
I remember talking to him one time. I said, "Why you pick special ed?" And he was like, "Well, the reason is because," he said, "those kids need help. And a lot of times they're overlooked in the system, and he just wanted to do his part to help as many as he could have."
New Year's Eve, 2004. Television screens were full of celebration ringing in the new year. Martina and some of her family members went to church, arriving home after midnight. But Martina couldn't sleep. She had not heard from Martin.
I couldn't really sleep. So I just started washing clothes. I remember I was washing clothes, and I was on the internet a little bit.
While Martina was having trouble sleeping, Martin Mingo was driving home from a friend's house. Martin had no idea that just ahead of him, an officer was pursuing a possible drunk driver who was traveling in the wrong lane. The scene recorded by the officer's in-car camera. You can see Martin Mingo's headlights appear. He had no idea someone was in his lane. The officer hoped to force the drunk driver off the road, but it didn't happen. That sound marked the end of Martin Mingo's life.
That next morning, we got up, and Dad was asking did anybody hear from Martin? And I said, no. And so we called down to his place, and we didn't get an answer. And so we just figured he was sleeping, because he doesn't answer the phone. If he's sleeping, he's not going to answer the phone. So we just figured he was just asleep, and he'll get the message that we left on his answer machine.
It wasn't until much later that day a neighbor called Martina, telling her to come home right away.
She said you need to come to her house. So we went to her house, and at the house was the coroner to notify us that Martin was killed 2:50 in the morning on Percival Road from a head-on collision with a drunk driver.
Deborah just witnessed a 1050 head-on.
It just felt like, like being punched in the stomach, and just like hole going through you. It just felt like you're just numb from, it was. And my neighbor, knowing she knew Martin as well and everything, and it was almost like a shock.
It was a hard-hit crash. The drunk driver's car burst into flames. He managed to crawl out to safety. Martin Mingo died instantly. He was not wearing a seatbelt.
And he never was a big person on wearing seatbelts. And I always would tell Martin, you need to put your seatbelt on. When he drove my car, he had to wear a seatbelt. But he was a big guy, so I don't know if he had this complex, or maybe I'm big enough or something that I won't get hurt. But he never did wear a seatbelt that much. And I think back, what if he did? He always had that in the back of your mind. What if he did? If he had it on, would it have been the difference? And
would a seatbelt have saved Martin Mingo? We'll never know for sure. But we do know if the drunk driver had never gotten behind the wheel that night, Martin Mingo would still be here. Still teaching his special needs kids. Still helping to raise his daughter. The drunk driver was sentenced to prison. That doesn't ease the pain for the Mingo family.
And sometimes culturally, it's a part of their lifestyle. And so what if I drive? I drive all the time, and so I think when people get in that situation, they get behind the wheel and drunk, they're not really looking at the consequences. It's down the road. And down the road, in that case, could be an innocent victim like my brother coming. Drinking and driving, what it has done for my family has put us in a situation where we have to spend the rest of our lives asking why. Why did it happen to Martin? Why now? Why? And it hurts a lot.